So today we're diving into this really powerful idea from a text called the silent uprising. The whole thing argues that our freedom of speech isn't just being threatened, it's being completely reshaped by these invisible forces. So the question is, what are these new digital walls, and is there any way to actually tear them down? Let's get into it.
Okay, so the whole thing kicks off with this incredibly stark line. You were silenced, not by force of arms, but by lines of code. This one sentence just perfectly frames the entire argument we're about to unpack. This idea that modern censorship, well, it doesn't use weapons anymore. It uses software.
All right, so if code is the new weapon, then where are the new fortresses? The source calls them the new digital walls, and it argues that algorithms, these complex lines of code, have basically become our modern-day gatekeepers. And the text really lays out this powerful contrast, right? On one hand, you've got old-school stone walls. They're physical, you can see them, you know what they're for, and you can openly challenge them. But these algorithm walls, totally different game. The text says they're invisible, they're secretive, and they are incredibly hard to fight back against, mostly because you often don't even know they're there. And look, the source does not pull any punches with its language here. It claims tech companies have become the dictators of our time, and we did not vote for them. The point it's making is that there's been this massive, totally unchecked shift of power over to these private companies that now control how billions of us get our information.
But this isn't just some abstract philosophical argument. The text really tries to ground these claims in some hard data. So let's take a look at the numbers behind what it calls the digital silence.
All right, check out this first data point. In just 2 months back in 2023, the source cites more than 1,050 reported cases of Meta allegedly suppressing pro-Palestinian content. The text uses this figure to suggest that this isn't random, it's a specific and targeted pattern of moderation. And it's not just what's happening inside these companies either. Citing allegations from whistleblowers, the text points to a staggering 94% compliance rate from Meta with certain government demands to take down content. The implication here is pretty clear that these platforms might be working hand-in-hand with state interests to control the story.
The text also tries to put a human face on all this, pointing to the internal cost of these policies. In 2024, 2 Meta employees were reportedly fired. First, Faraz Hamad, an engineer who was apparently looking into bugs that suppressed certain content, and then Saima Akhtar, a data scientist who was compiling reports on moderation bias. Their stories are used to show what happens to people who try to question the system from the inside.
And just to grasp the sheer scale of this problem, the source hits us with this absolutely massive number, 4.8 billion. That's how many people it claims experienced some kind of censorship or had their internet access restricted in 2024. I mean, that's more than half the people on Earth, suggesting this isn't some isolated issue. It's a global phenomenon. Okay, so after painting that pretty grim picture, the text does something really interesting. It pivots. It doesn't just criticize what's happening, it actually tries to imagine a totally different way forward. So let's explore its vision for what it calls unbreakable speech. So what does this actually look like? Well, the source paints this picture. Imagine a poet in Beirut sends out a message. But instead of hitting some corporate server in a data center somewhere, it travels through a network of accountable people, trusted journalists or academics. And from there, it reaches a global audience. The key here is transparency and human accountability. Every single step is traceable, which gets rid of that black box algorithm we have now. And here's another really fascinating concept from the source, the mastermind assembly. This is described as a real, physical, offline school. It's a place where people would go to learn about leadership, ethics, and how to communicate effectively. The whole idea is that your visibility online wouldn't be about chasing clicks, but about actually earning it through proven merit and character that you developed in the real world. And really, this brings us to the core principle of this whole imagined future. In this world that the source proposes, AI is just the plumbing. It handles the mechanics, the background stuff, but it's human judgment, informed by these offline schools and accountable people, that actually determines which voices get heard and amplified. It's a fundamental flip of the entire model we're used to. So what this new vision really does is it sets up this huge central conflict, right? A choice that the source says we all have to make. And that brings us to the core dilemma: humanity versus algorithms.
This quote from the text really gets to the absolute heart of its argument about leadership. AI does not don a bulletproof vest. AI does not shed tears. AI does not bleed. AI does not lead. Humans must lead. The point it's making is that real leadership and true responsibility, Well, they require sacrifice, risk, skin in the game, things a machine can never, ever truly possess.
And so the text just boils its entire argument down to this one single, incredibly direct question. Who should decide who is free, a human or an algorithm? It's a powerful moment, and it's meant to make you think right before the source lays out its final proposal. All right, so after hitting us with that big question, the text doesn't just leave us hanging. It offers its answer. This final section lays out what it calls a new path forward, almost like a manifesto for human leadership in our digital age. So here are the building blocks of this proposed New Deal for speech. It calls for a super user system run by humans for oversight. It calls for meritocratic speech, where you earn your visibility. It proposes those offline schools for leadership training we talked about. It envisions online grids built on verified, real human connections. And finally, there's a core promise. No voice is ever erased without a clear cause and a stated reason. The whole thing is a system built from the ground up on accountability. And so we're left with the source's final, really provocative choice. It argues that our future will be decided by this one question. Will we choose to live in a cell of code or in a world of human freedom? And the text just leaves us with that, pushing us to make a conscious decision about the kind of digital world we actually want to build.